Antebellum has finally hit theaters. Today I'm going to give you my thoughts. I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel watching this film. What are my overall thoughts? Was it a good film? Was it a bad film? Was it a mixed film? I will give you my opinion. So let me know in the comments below, what are your thoughts? What are your opinions on Antebellum? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Or were you mixed? I am very interested to hear what people's opinions are going to be about this film, because this is going to be an interesting one. This is going to be a very interesting one. So I'm excited. Give us a like, subscribe, and let's get into this review. Okay, so Antebellum. I think I said that right. It's finally out, and I mean, I watched the trailer for this one. I was watching it and I'm like, this is a weird, unique story, something different. And I was like, okay, so what is this film about? And what this film is about Veronica, who is a author who sells books and stuff like that, gets trapped into a reality that is very, very terrifying. Now, first off, I just want to clarify this. When I walked out of the theater after watching this film, I was like to myself, what the fuck did I just watch? That was honestly my first reaction, was, what the fuck was that? What was that? This film is so confusing. The first two acts, I was sitting there, I'm watching the first act happen, and I'm like, okay, so this is back in the Civil War times, obviously. This is about the Civil War, because it's about black people being slaves and being captured, and they're in the camp, and so it's going to be about the Civil War now. And so I'm sitting there and I'm watching and I'm like, but it's about an author. So is this just her reading a book she wrote about, like about experiences from this time? So I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, so what's going on? What's going on? And I'm starting to sit there and I'm trying to think, what is the actual story and plot of this film right now? Because I'm sitting there and I'm watching it and I'm just like, I don't even know what this is about. This is just basically like them being captured. Like, is that the story that they're trying to tell? And I'm trying to think to myself, like, what is happening? What is happening in this film? What's the purpose of this film? And then it cuts to a completely, like, she's in the real world. And I'm like sitting there, I'm like, hold on, wait a second. So, we were just in the Civil War times, now we're in today's world. What? It doesn't, it's cut up into a way where it's not told in order, in I can't even speak, and my brain is scattered right now. Chronological order, it's not in that order, and you only find that out by the third act. The third act starts to reveal everything that's happened. So I'm sitting there, I'm confused. The first two acts, okay, I'm gonna say this now. The first act is a decent setup. It's a decent setup. The middle bit is just like boring as fuck. Like, I mean, boring. It dragged. The pacing was terrible. I was so dragged, and then characters that came in were terrible. Were absolutely terrible. One of her friends that comes into it annoyed the absolute fucking shit out of me. And I mean the absolute shit. I was so annoyed by her character. I was just like, she's over the top. She is just unlikable, and I'm just like, dude, this character is annoying the shit out of me, and this bit's already boring and dragging on, and now you're gonna throw this character on top of me? I don't care. Like, at this point, I'm starting to go through and be like, I don't care for this film. I honestly do not care. I'm sitting there and I'm like, why am I watching this film? There's no story here. The first two acts, there's no real story. The only way you get the story is when you hit the third act and you start piecing everything together and they start revealing certain things, and you're like, okay, now I see what's going on. Then you start to see, okay, so that's what's going on. And I'm sitting there and I'm still like, what is this film about? And that's what I walked out. Like, I was like, what the fuck did I just watch? Like, to be honest, I could sit here and I couldn't tell you exactly the purpose of the film and what it was about. It's basically someone that's just kidnapped and put into this scenario. That's all it is. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, there's no actual story behind this. There's no message. There's no nothing. I felt empty walking out of the theater out of this one. I felt empty. I didn't feel for the characters. The characters were not developed at all. The only characters I really did have feelings towards was one particular dude who's there, who's with the main actress in the Civil War bit. I did have some sympathy and stuff, I did feel emotion towards him, and I did care about him. Other than that, the villains of the actual Civil War and stuff like that, that time period, whatever you want to call it, the only thing I felt for them was just pure hatred, because they're just assholes and they're just fucking idiots, and I hated them. And the girl who is the villain as well, hated her. Other than that, I had no emotional attachment to any of the other characters. They didn't develop them enough to where I was I cared for them or anything like that. I was kind of just like, can we just get this over with? Yeah, so, I don't know. This is an empty film to me. I'm just I felt empty walking out. I was like, well, that was just pointless. I did feel pointless. It did feel pointless. There's no real scares or horror elements or anything like that in this film. It's boring. I'm just going to be completely honest. It's boring, it's bland, and I just did not like it. I didn't like it. I felt very empty. It's not a good film to me. And it is very confusing at the start, so you lose. When it's that confusing at the start and you don't know what's going on, you start to come out of the movie, and it took me out of the movie. The second act was boring and slow. The characters are just, some of them are unbearable. There's no attachment, there's no development. I'm just sitting there, and not to mention as well, the third act, I couldn't see shit. The lighting is terrible. It is terrible. It is shot in dusk, and it is just terrible. I couldn't see what was happening. I could not see what was happening at all. I'm sitting there and I'm like, I can't see anything. I honestly can't see anything. Anything I can see is when the guns are shooting, because you can see when the bullets are being shot, you can see everything that's come, the big flames or whatever you want to call it when they shoot. That's all you could see. You couldn't see anything else, and I'm just and then it just ended, and I was just kind of well, I feel empty watching this film. This isn't one I'm going to rewatch. This isn't one that I'm going to say I recommend. To me, Antebellum was boring, pointless, and that's all I can say about it. So, again, let me know in the comments below. Did you love it? Did you hate it? That's why I'm so interested to hear people's opinions if they loved it. I want to know why people love this film, because I want to see their perspective, because mine, I felt so empty and felt so pointless. And I did not enjoy this film at all. This was one of the most boringest films I've ever watched. And I've got to put it down as one of the worst so far of the year. I did not enjoy this at all. So let me know in the comments below. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Give us a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.